Welcome to Audiomentors. In this new audiobook, we bring you an exclusive long summary of Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell, made only by us. This summary is designed so that you can grasp all the key teachings and principles of this book, without missing a single detail. Conwell reminds us that true wealth is not always in distant places, but often within our reach, right where we are. If you like this summary and want to continue learning from other inspiring books, don't forget to subscribe to Audiomentors. This way you won't miss any of our new audiobooks and summaries, made especially for you. Thank you for being part of Audiomentors and for joining us on this path of continuous learning. Chapter 1. The Story of Al Haft and the Search for Diamonds. Once upon a time there was a man named Al Haft, who lived a prosperous and happy life on his farm. He owned a fertile property, with productive land and a family that he loved deeply. Al Haft had everything most people would want: a comfortable life, a stable home, and everything needed to be happy. However, despite this abundance, his life changed completely when a visitor came to his house and told him about diamonds. This man told Al Haft about the value of diamonds, precious stones that, if found, could make those who possessed them extremely rich. According to the visitor, there were large diamond mines in various places around the world, and those people who managed to find these treasures could have priceless wealth. Al Haft, upon hearing this story, began to feel deeply dissatisfied with his own life, even though he already possessed everything he needed to be happy. Although he had previously been grateful for his quiet life, the thought of diamonds ignited in his heart a burning desire to seek something greater and more valuable. He was no longer happy with what he had, and began to think that if he found a diamond, he could get much more than his estate could offer him. The thought of being even richer consumed him completely. The idea of having diamonds, of possessing something so valuable, began to overshadow his gratitude for what he already had. Al Haft, guided by this new desire and the belief that diamonds would be the key to an even richer life, made a decision that would change his destiny. He sold his estate and everything he owned, and began searching for diamonds. He said goodbye to his family and left behind everything he had worked for years. He set off into an unknown world in search of the treasures that his mind had visualized, without realizing what he was losing. Al Haft traveled the world, crossing mountains and oceans, asking everyone he met about the whereabouts of the diamonds. He visited distant cities, talked with merchants, explored different lands, but never found a single diamond. Each day, his frustration grew, and what began as an exciting mission to find wealth became a desperate quest. Time passed, and with each day that passed without results, desperation took over. The riches he thought he would find remained out of reach. Throughout his search, Al Haft spent the last of his money, lost his health, and watched his dream crumble. However, he couldn't turn back. He was obsessed with the idea of finding diamonds and couldn't imagine returning home without having found it. For years, he continued traveling and searching in all corners of the world, but he never found what he longed for. Finally, after a long time of wandering aimlessly and without resources, Al Haft found himself on the verge of despair. I no longer had money, energy, or hope. In desperation, he threw himself into the sea and ended his life in a tragic end, far from his home and family. His life ended without him having ever found a single diamond. The fate of the Al Haft estate, however, Al Haft's story did not end there. The farm he sold in desperation became the property of a new owner, a humble man who, unlike Al Haft, did not know the history of diamonds. The new owner dedicated himself to working the farm's land in a modest way, without knowing that what Al Haft had owned had a hidden value. One day, while exploring an area of the farm, the new owner found a shiny stone on the ground. Intrigued by its appearance, he picked it up and looked at it carefully. He didn't know what it was, but he thought it might be something of value. He decided to keep it and later took it to a gem expert to investigate its origin. To his astonishment, the expert informed him that he had found a diamond. The new owner was amazed and began looking for more stones on the farm. Upon further investigation, he discovered that his land was full of diamonds. Al Haft's estate, which he had sold and left behind in search of distant riches, was located above one of the largest and most famous diamond mines in the world, the Golconda mine. This discovery made the new owner one of the richest men in the world in a matter of a short time. The lesson of history, the story of Al Haft and his search for diamonds, is a powerful metaphor for how we often look for what we need in distant places, without realizing that what we want is already close to us. Al Haft left behind wealth he already possessed, searching for something better, without realizing that the true wealth was in his own home. The lesson of history is clear. Wealth is not always in the distance, but often right in front of us. Dissatisfaction, greed, and the desire for more can blind us to the blessings we already have. True wealth lies in learning to value what we have and taking advantage of the opportunities that are close to us. To meditation and the deep study of life and the universe. One day, a young man who lived in the nearby valley approached the monk in search of answers. The young man explained that, despite living in a comfortable house and having a good life, he felt that something was missing. He believed there was something bigger, something out of his reach, that could give him true happiness. He thought that wealth, in material terms, was the key to finding that emptiness he felt inside. The monk, upon hearing his words, responded with a story. He told her about a hidden gem in his own house. He explained that the jewel was not in the mountains or in a distant place, but rather was in his house, but the young man had not seen it because he was too focused on searching for something out of his reach. The monk told the young man, "True wealth, like this jewel, is not found in what is beyond, but in what you already have close to you. Happiness and satisfaction do not depend on what you achieve, but on how you value what you already have." The young man in search of the jewel, the young man, intrigued by the monk's words, asked him to tell him where he could find the hidden jewel. The monk, with a smile on his face, told him that, to find it, he had to look inside himself and recognize what he really had. He explained that the desire for the distant and the dissatisfaction with the near had blinded him, and that only when he learned to appreciate what he already possessed could he discover his true wealth. The young man, however, did not fully understand the monk's message. He thought that the jewel was a physical object and decided to go home in search of the promised wealth. He walked through his home, checking every corner, but found nothing that looked like a treasure. After a long day of fruitless searching, the young man returned to the monastery, exhausted and frustrated. He approached the monk and said, "I have not found the jewel. I've searched every possible place, but there's nothing there. How come I can't find what you told me?" The monk smiled patiently at him and explained that the jewel was not something material, but a deep understanding. He told her, "The gem is your ability to see the value in what you already own. Wealth is not in what you want or what you lack, but in how you appreciate and use what you have in front of you. Inner peace and contentment come from knowing that what you need to be happy is already within you. True wealth is inside." The monk continued to teach the young man that true wealth is not a physical treasure, but a state of mind. Wealth is in our mind, in our attitude towards what we own and what we are. When we learn to see value in what we have, we discover that we are already rich in what really matters: peace, gratitude, and appreciation for life. The young man finally understood that happiness is not found in what we look for outside of ourselves, but in appreciating what we have here and now. He understood that his well-being did not depend on having more things, but on being aware of the abundance that already existed in his life. The monk gave him one last teaching. Inner wealth is not obtained by seeking more things, but by learning to be grateful for what you already have and learning to live with what has been given to you. Reflection on the monk's lesson. This chapter shows us that true wealth is not always found in the accumulation of material goods or in the search for something far away, but in the deep appreciation for what we already have. The Buddhist monk teaches that true happiness and wealth come from inner peace, gratitude, and acceptance. The young man who was looking for the jewel in the wrong place finally understood that his well-being was closer than he thought. Chapter 3. The dissatisfaction of abundance. In this chapter, Russell Conwell explores a topic fundamental to understanding the concept of wealth: the dissatisfaction that many people experience despite living in abundance. Through examples and deep reflections, Conwell shows how material abundance does not always translate into happiness or contentment. In fact, for many, having more can generate a feeling of emptiness or frustration, since true satisfaction does not depend on the quantity of goods, but on the attitude with which those goods are perceived and enjoyed. The paradox of abundance. Conwell begins the chapter by pointing out a paradox that many people who have material abundance experience. Despite having more than most people consider enough, they still feel like they are missing something essential. These people generally seek more wealth, more property, more possessions, believing that the accumulation of material goods will resolve their internal dissatisfaction. However, what really happens is that this cycle of acquisition never brings true satisfaction, because the desire for more never goes away. Conwell points out that this behavior has become a constant in modern life. Society has created an idea that having more, money, houses, cars, clothes, or technology, is synonymous with success and happiness. However, in his analysis, the author explains that people who focus solely on accumulating more things fall into a trap of constant dissatisfaction. The dissatisfaction of the rich. Throughout the chapter, Conwell provides examples of men and women who, despite having great wealth, feel empty and discontented. It talks about successful businessmen, bankers, industrialists, and prominent figures who, although they have achieved material success, experience an emotional and spiritual emptiness. The tireless search for more things creates a kind of internal turmoil. Happiness, then, is not found in the accumulation of wealth, but in the way in which the wealth we already have is managed. Dissatisfaction arises when these people feel that they cannot truly enjoy what they have earned because they are always looking towards the next goal. The insatiable desire for more money, more power, more recognition, takes away from the ability to enjoy the present and appreciate what they have already achieved. Conwell mentions that many times when achieving the material goals they have set for themselves, these people discover that, once achieved, there is no lasting feeling of satisfaction. The satisfaction of having more is fleeting and soon disappears, only to give way to the need for something even greater, leading to a continuous cycle of dissatisfaction. The lack mentality. The author introduces the concept of lack mentality to explain how many people, even those who already have a lot, cannot experience fulfillment because they always feel like something is missing. Despite having material wealth, this mentality makes them feel like it is never enough. The mind, by focusing on what is missing, generates a feeling of lack and dissatisfaction. This attitude not only affects personal relationships and inner peace, but can also generate anxiety and stress, since we are constantly looking for something more, without ever being truly satisfied with what we have. On the other hand, Conwell introduces the concept of abundance mentality, in which the person feels grateful and satisfied with what they have, valuing and taking advantage of what they have instead of always looking for what they lack. This mindset allows people to experience peace and contentment as they recognize the richness of what they already have instead of focusing on scarcity. The emptiness of material goods. As the chapter progresses, Conwell reflects on how society at large tends to value material goods as the measure of success and happiness. It is observed that, in many cases, people feel a need to have more things because they believe that those things will bring them the happiness that they lack. However, this focus on the material only leads to a lack of internal satisfaction. Conwell also points out that people who do not have enough resources may feel that their life is limited, but those who have achieved abundance may also experience a sense of dissatisfaction and emotional emptiness, since their satisfaction does not come from personal fulfillment or inner peace, but of external acquisition. The difference between being rich and feeling rich. Conwell makes an important distinction between being rich and feeling rich. A person can have great material wealth but not feel rich emotionally or spiritually. Feeling rich has nothing to do with the amount of things you own, but with how you value and use what you have. People who feel rich are those who appreciate what they have and live with gratitude, while people who are simply rich but do not feel rich can live in a continuous search for more, without finding satisfaction. The author emphasizes that true inner wealth comes from a balanced life where gratitude, appreciation for what you have, and peace of mind become the main ingredients for happiness, beyond the material. The change of mentality toward satisfaction. To end the chapter, Conwell offers some practical advice. Changing your mindset is essential to achieving true satisfaction. Moving from a lack mentality to an abundance mentality is key to finding true wealth in life. This involves learning to value what we already have, to enjoy the present moments, and to take advantage of the opportunities that life gives us. Only when we change our perception of wealth and begin to see the abundance in what we already possess, can we achieve a real level of satisfaction. This chapter emphasizes the importance of changing the mindset from constantly seeking more to one of appreciating what we already have. True wealth lies not in material possessions, but in inner peace and the ability to enjoy what we already have. Conwell invites us to reconsider our view of wealth and find satisfaction in what we have already achieved. Chapter 4. The Sale of the Estate and the Beginning of the Search. In this chapter, Russell Conwell delves into the defining moment in Al Haft's story, when he decides to sell his farm and embark on a quest that would change his life forever. The chapter shows us how impulsive decisions based on the desire to obtain something greater, without valuing what we already have, can lead us down unexpected and, in many cases, destructive paths. The decision to sell the farm. Al Haft, after being informed about diamonds and becoming obsessed with the idea of obtaining more wealth, decided that what he had was not enough. Despite living on a prosperous estate with fertile land and a loving family, the desire to find diamonds led him to make a hasty decision. Selling the farm meant getting rid of everything he had: his home, his stability, and his source of livelihood. However, greed for the idea of becoming even richer blinded him, and he soon began to see his estate and what he owned as trivial and insufficient. Conwell describes how Al Haft did not value the wealth he already had. Instead of taking advantage of the life he had built with effort and dedication, he thought that, to achieve a true abundance, he had to look for something out of his reach. The sale of the property represented the renunciation of his security, and the beginning of a frantic search for what he did not know. The beginning of the search, an impulsive adventure. Once he sold his estate, Al Haft began searching for diamonds around the world. He traveled to faraway places, ventured into unknown lands, and consulted with people who, like him, shared stories about the wealth that diamonds could bring. His search took him down many routes, but he never found what he was looking for. First, I was excited for the adventure. He felt as if he were about to discover a great treasure, something that would change his life forever. However, quickly the thrill of the adventure began to fade, and desperation began to take hold. The fruitless search and the growing emptiness throughout his journey, Al Haft spent what little of his money was left on transportation and resources. He traveled to cities, talked to experts, explored mines, and talked to other diamond prospectors. Nothing he found was what he expected. The search for diamonds became an obsession that consumed him completely. With each day that passed without finding diamonds, the frustration and emptiness grew deeper. Conwell highlights how greed and the desire for more caused Al Haft to lose sight of what he already possessed, and how the constant search for something better led him to despair. Although he had left behind a life rich in stability and love, his focus on what he did not have led him to an empty and lonely existence. The author highlights that impulsive decisions made in a moment of unbridled desire can change the course of a person's life, often irreversibly. The passage from hope to despair over time, Al Haft's search took him to desolate places, where poverty and suffering accompanied him. The money ran out quickly, and hope began to fade. Instead of finding wealth and happiness, Al Haft found himself trapped in a spiral of frustration, illness, and loneliness. The dream of diamonds that he had nurtured for so long no longer motivated him. The goal of being richer had stopped being an exciting dream and had become a heavy burden. Al Haft began to question whether he was really on the right path. The promise of infinite riches that had led him to sell his farm was crumbling in the face of the harsh reality of his life. He realized that the money he had obtained from the sale of the estate had gone in vain, without finding the promised treasure. The days passed, and desperation grew, as his health and well-being worsened. In the distance, his old friends and family continued with their lives, while he was lost in a sea of doubt and regret. The arrival of tragedy. The chapter shows how the obsession with the search for more led Al Haft to make decisions that destroyed his happiness and his future. The money he had earned from the sale of his farm was no longer worth anything in his quest to find diamonds. The hopes that initially drove him became a chain that tied him to an uncertain future without results. The final tragedy of his life, death in despair, is the result of having sacrificed what he had for something he was never going to get. Reflection on the sale of the property. This chapter is a warning about the dangers of getting carried away by the desire for more, without valuing what you already have. Al Haft, by selling his estate in search of diamonds, lost the stability, love and wealth he already possessed. His story teaches us that sometimes the search for something greater can lead us to lose what is truly valuable in our lives. The chapter highlights how impulsive decisions based on the desire to achieve more wealth or obtain something that seems more valuable can distance us from the true abundance that we already have in our hands. Wealth is often closer than we think, and it is essential to learn to appreciate what we have before launching into the search for the unknown. Chapter 5: Journey to Despair. The search continues in this chapter. Russell Conwell delves into Al Haft's endless quest for diamonds, a quest that leads him closer and closer to desperation. As time passes and his resources become depleted, Al Haft's story becomes a lesson in how obsession with something far away and lack of appreciation for what we already have can lead a person to destruction. Conwell highlights how the constant pursuit of external wealth can distance us from what is truly valuable in life. The search without results. After selling his estate, Al Haft embarks on an aimless journey, convinced that diamonds are the key to his happiness and prosperity. In his mind, diamonds represented the ultimate goal, something that would lift him out of the mediocrity of his life and lead him to true wealth. He moves further and further away from home, following rumors, traveling from city to city, questioning people who claimed to have information about the diamonds. However, every place he reached and every lead he followed ended up being false or baseless. His frustration began to grow, but Al Haft, blinded by the idea of what he might find, kept going. His hope began to dwindle as false leads took him to increasingly remote places, without getting the results he had hoped for. Over time, Al Haft lost all his money, and loneliness became more and more present. He had traveled to so many places that he had no idea where he was anymore. The cities he had reached no longer offered the answers he sought, and desperation took hold. Despite the lack of resources and increasing fatigue, his mind remained obsessed with the thought that if he simply found a diamond, everything would change. The exhaustion of hope. Al Haft's journey became increasingly bleak, as despite his determination, his search became more desperate and empty. Conwell describes how the feeling of failure began to consume Al Haft. He was no longer motivated by the desire to get rich, but by the desperate need to justify his actions. He had left behind a stable and full life, but he couldn't go back. He couldn't admit that he had made a bad decision. His journey to wealth had become a journey of escape from himself. As his frustration grew, Al Haft began to experience doubts about his own ability to find what he so desired. His physical health was deteriorating and his mind was increasingly troubled. Conwell shows how the exhaustion of hope can lead a person to lose sight of the original purpose of their search. Al Haft, in his obsession, no longer saw the treasures he still had in his life, nor the estate he had sold, nor the opportunities that might still have existed had he returned home. The mind blinded by desire. Conwell explores how, as the pursuit of external riches becomes Al Haft's only priority, his mind becomes blinded by the desire for more. Al Haft lost the ability to see what really mattered: his family, his home, and the simple but rich life he had. His desire to find something greater made him lose what he already possessed. Conwell points out that this is a common tragedy in many people's lives. The constant search for something far away makes us forget how valuable we already have. The tiredness of a lost man. Al Haft's story also shows us how impulsive decisions based on the desire for something greater can lead to physical and emotional exhaustion. As Al Haft progressed in his search, he realized that he no longer had the strength or money to continue. He was in an unknown place, exhausted and desperate. His search had become a burden that pushed him beyond his limits, with no hope of finding what he had been looking for. At this point, Conwell presents a crucial reflection. Unsatisfied desire and obsession with what we don't have can exhaust us physically and emotionally, to the point that we can no longer appreciate what we have in the present. Al Haft's story becomes a warning about how the pursuit of external riches can strip a person of the inner peace and satisfaction they could already experience with what they have around them. The point of no return. As the story progresses, the author describes how desperation finally reached its peak. Al Haft, having lost all his fortune and health, began to question the validity of his quest. Would he really one day find the diamonds he had dreamed of? The lack of results led him to a deep crisis, in which he could no longer find reasons to continue. However, his pride and his decision not to turn back made him continue forward, although without hope. This chapter highlights how desperation, combined with an obsession with the far away, can completely blind us to the opportunities within our reach. Al Haft, in his desperation, wasted the value of what was close to him and never understood that true wealth was already under his feet, in his own farm. Chapter conclusion. Al Haft's journey is a profound lesson in how impulsive decisions based on desire can lead us to lose what is truly valuable in our lives. The obsession with something greater and the endless search for external riches can drag us into despair, causing us to forget what we already have and what we have already achieved. This chapter invites us to reflect on the importance of valuing what we have in the present, instead of losing everything in search of something that may never be out of reach. Chapter 6. The Fate of Al Haft. Death in the Distance. In this chapter, Russell Conwell continues to develop the tragic story of Al Haft, who, after years of unsuccessful searching, ends up losing his life in the distance. His destiny, marked by obsession and desperation, serves as a warning about the dangers of pursuing dreams without taking into account what we already possess. The fall into despair as the search for Al Haft spread. His life began to fall apart. The desire for diamonds became a destructive obsession that led him to lose his health, his money and, eventually, his hope. The journey, which initially seemed full of promises of wealth and success, quickly transformed into a process of physical and emotional exhaustion. Al Haft stopped seeing the value of his past life, and with each day that passed without finding diamonds, he sank deeper into despair. The author describes how Al Haft's mind, marked by greed and desire for more, led him to a state of exhaustion and disillusionment. The pursuit of riches took him away from everything he had once loved and valued. What had been a happy and prosperous man became someone obsessed with something he never achieved. The decision to abandon everything as the years passed, Al Haft moved further and further away from home, and his determination to find diamonds became a kind of mental prison. Without realizing it, he had left behind the most valuable thing he owned: his family, his home, and his land. Diamonds, which initially represented the promise of a better life, became the sole goal of his life, and he left everything else behind. The author highlights that this obsession with the future and what we don't have can make us lose what we already have, even if that means the loss of happiness and peace. Al Haft could no longer see what he had left behind. Every time he thought about returning, he found himself unable to do so, because his pride and the strength of his desire kept him tied to his search. Death without knowing wealth. Finally, in the loneliness and exhaustion of his journey, Al Haft died far from home. His life tragically ended in absolute misery, while the dream of diamonds remained an illusion that never materialized. What Al Haft didn't know was that the wealth he longed for was beneath his own land, right in the place he had left behind when he sold his farm. While he was dying in the distance, a new owner had bought the estate and, by chance, found one of the largest diamond mines in the world, the Golconda mine. This outcome reveals the tragic irony of the story. Al Haft had given up his own wealth in pursuit of something he never achieved, while the wealth he had been seeking was within his reach all along. The estate he had sold contained the diamonds, and the new owner became enormously rich without even doing an active search. The moral of the story: through the death of Al Haft, Conwell conveys a powerful lesson about dissatisfaction and obsession. The story highlights how the desire for what we don't have can divert us from what we already possess and lead us to decisions that destroy what is truly valuable in our lives. Wealth, well-being, and happiness are not always found in distant places, but can be right in front of us, in what we already possess. Reflection on the fate of Al Haft. Al Haft, in his pursuit of what he considered superior wealth, lost what was most important: his home, his family, and his peace. This chapter makes us reflect on how the obsession with the future and the constant search for what we do not have can blind us to the true value of what we have. Al Haft's death in the distance, without knowing the value of what he left behind, is a bitter lesson about the dangers of chasing dreams without appreciating what we already have. Conwell concludes this chapter by highlighting that true wealth lies in what is close, in learning to appreciate what we have and not obsess over what we lack. Al Haft, by not valuing his life and his land, lived a tragedy of dissatisfaction that could have been avoided if only he had learned to see the value in what he possessed. Chapter 7. The New Owner and the Unexpected Discovery. In this chapter, Russell Conwell presents the final twist in Al Haft's story through the new owner of his estate. The chapter highlights the irony of the story. While Al Haft dies searching for diamonds, the new owner of his land discovers what Al Haft had lost: a diamond mine, hidden under the floor of the farm he had abandoned. The change of owner. After Al Haft sold his estate, the new owner acquired the property without knowing anything about the history of the diamonds or Al Haft's search. This man, who was not obsessed with material wealth, acquired the farm with the simple desire to farm it and live there. Unlike Al Haft, the new owner had no expectations of finding something extraordinary. He simply wanted to live a quiet life. Conwell points out how this new man's life was more modest than Al Haft's, but richer in peace and contentment. He was not seeking wealth in the traditional sense. What this man had was a different attitude toward life, one in which value was measured not by what one possesses, but by the ability to enjoy what one has. The discovery of diamonds. One day, while walking around his farm, the new owner came across a shiny stone on the ground. Intrigued, he picked it up and examined it, but he didn't know what it was. However, it seemed strange to him and he kept it, without giving it much importance at that moment. Over time, the new owner realized that the stone he had found was actually a diamond. He decided to investigate further about what he had found. To his surprise, he discovered that not only had he found a diamond, but his farm was full of diamonds. The land that Al Haft had abandoned was on top of one of the largest diamond mines in the world. The author describes the amazement of the new owner, who never imagined that what he had acquired from Al Haft would grant him so much wealth and prosperity. Unlike Al Haft, who had spent years searching for diamonds elsewhere, the new owner did not have to go anywhere far away or spend his fortune on fruitless searches. Wealth was right beneath his feet. The unexpected wealth. Conwell uses this unexpected twist to highlight the irony of the story. Al Haft, by selling his estate, walked away from the wealth he already possessed, and died searching for something he already had. On the other hand, the new owner, without seeking wealth, found it without effort. The fate of both men highlights how the search for something far away often causes us to lose sight of what we already have. The new owner of the estate not only discovered diamonds, but also found a source of abundance that allowed him to live a life of prosperity without having to travel the world or make great sacrifices. In contrast to Al Haft's life, the new owner lived with gratitude and appreciation for what he had received without expecting to find something extraordinary. The value of what we have nearby. This chapter reinforces the main lesson of the work. True wealth is often closer than we think. Al Haft's pursuit, based on greed and dissatisfaction, led him to lose sight of the abundance he already had. Instead, the new owner, not being obsessed with the idea of getting rich, enjoyed unexpected wealth that came to him without having to look for it. Conwell calls for us to reflect on what we possess and how we often focus on what we lack, without realizing that abundance is in what we already have. The diamond-studded Al Haft estate is a symbol of how opportunities and wealth can be right in front of us, but we don't see them because we are too focused on what we think we are missing. The difference in mentality. The chapter also highlights the difference in the mentalities of the two characters. Al Haft, blinded by his desire for more, and the new owner, who lives a quiet and grateful life. History teaches us that insatiable desire can blind us to the blessings we already have, while a mindset of gratitude and appreciation for what we possess can open us to new opportunities and wealth. Lessons from the Chapter 1. True wealth is not always found in distant places, but is right within our reach. Al Haft did not see the wealth he had in his own land, but the new owner, without looking for it, found it unexpectedly. 2. the importance of mindset. The new owner was not obsessed with money, and that is why he received wealth effortlessly. Mentorship and insight into what really matters can lead us to a life of abundance. 3. The value of what is close. This chapter emphasizes that wealth is in what we already have. Sometimes what we want most is already within our reach, but we need to appreciate it. Chapter 8. The Golconda Diamond Mine. In this chapter, Russell Conwell presents us with a crucial turn in the story of Al Haft and his estate. Through the property's new owner, we discover how the wealth Al Haft left behind was at his fingertips all along. Conwell uses this part of the story to highlight the importance of valuing what we possess rather than searching for something better or greater in distant places. The arrival of the new owner. The chapter begins with the arrival of a new owner to the farm that Al Haft had abandoned in his search for diamonds. This new man was an ordinary human being, not a seeker of wealth, but someone who simply wanted to work the land and live a quiet life. He had no great ambitions or desires to become rich. He just wanted to take advantage of what the land had to offer him. This contrast between the new owner and Al Haft highlights one of the central lessons of the chapter. The new owner's lack of material ambition led him to enjoy wealth that he had not even sought. While Al Haft, with his obsession with finding diamonds, had abandoned everything he owned, the new owner simply began to work the land in a simple manner, without the greed or obsession that characterized Al Haft. The discovery of the diamond. One day, while walking around the farm, the new owner found a shiny stone on the ground. He picked it up, and although he did not know what it was, he decided to take it home, thinking that it might be something interesting. The author describes how the new owner, being a simple man, was not overly surprised by the stone, as he never imagined that what he had found was a diamond. In time, he decided to show the stone to a gem expert. To his surprise, the expert told him that what he had found was a diamond of great value. This piqued his curiosity, and he began to search for more stones on the estate. To his amazement, he discovered that the estate was full of diamonds. From that moment on, Al Haft's estate, which had been sold in search of foreign riches, became a diamond mine known throughout the world as the Golconda Mine. This discovery surprised the new owner, who, having sought nothing more than a quiet life, now found himself unexpectedly enriched. The diamonds that Al Haft had lost sight of, while searching for something abroad, were right under his feet. The irony of fate. The irony of the story becomes clear. Al Haft, by selling his estate and embarking on an endless search for diamonds, lost the opportunity to obtain the wealth he had had all along. While he spent years searching and suffering in faraway lands, the real wealth was in his own home, waiting to be discovered. The author emphasizes the tragedy of this situation. Al Haft had convinced himself that what he wanted was out of reach, in faraway places, but in reality the wealth was always close to him. The story highlights how the insatiable desire for what we do not have can blind us and make us lose sight of what we already possess. Al Haft had left his fertile land, his home, and his stability in pursuit of a dream that ultimately did not bring him the happiness he hoped for. On the other hand, the new owner of the estate, having no great material ambitions, simply lived in the moment and worked the land he had acquired. In his humility and absence of greed, he found unimaginable wealth. Golconda, the diamond mine. No. It not only brought him untold fortune, but also the satisfaction of living a life in harmony with the land and without obsessions. Wealth is not in what we seek, but in what we already have. Conwell uses this story to underscore a fundamental lesson. Wealth is often found in what we already have, where and when we find ourselves. Constant searches for something bigger or further away can blind us to the opportunities that are already available around us. In Al Haft's case, his obsession with diamonds led him to despise the wealth he already possessed. The chapter also reflects on the importance of appreciating what we have in the present. Instead of living waiting for the future or searching for something better, we must learn to value the blessings that are already within our reach. Al Haft's life is a reminder of how constant dissatisfaction can lead us to lose what is truly valuable. The contrast between the mentality of Al Haft and the new owner. One of the key elements of the chapter is the difference in mentality between Al Haft and the new owner. Al Haft, blinded by his obsession with something far away, never realized what was close to him. His mind was fixed on finding something better, while the new owner, without the obsession of getting rich, enjoyed unexpected wealth. Conwell uses this difference to explain how an abundance mindset can help us see the opportunities around us, while a lack mindset blinds us to what we already have. Al Haft lived in the constant belief that he needed more, while the new owner enjoyed what he had and found more without actively searching for it. The teaching of Golconda, the Golconda mine, is more than just a diamond find. It is a metaphor for the abundance that is already present in our lives. This mine symbolizes the opportunities and goods that we often do not see because we are too focused on what we lack. Golconda was a reminder that wealth is not always something we should look for elsewhere, but can be right under our feet, waiting to be appreciated. The chapter also reflects on how well-being and wealth should not be measured by the accumulation of material things, but by the ability to see and take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. The new owner, by not actively searching for diamonds, found wealth far beyond what he imagined. The value of the land was not only in its productive use, but in the hidden treasure that Al Haft could not see. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Wealth is close to us. We often look for wealth in distant places, when what we need is in what we already possess. 2. The abundance mentality versus the scarcity mentality. The way we see the world determines our ability to recognize the opportunities around us. 3. The importance of appreciating what we have. True wealth lies in appreciating what is already in our hands and enjoying the present blessings. 4. The irony of life. Sometimes what we seek most is right in front of us, waiting to be discovered. Chapter 9. The lesson of wealth. Nearby in this chapter, Russell Conwell delves into the idea that wealth is not always in the distance, but can be right in front of us in what we already have, if we are able to properly appreciate it. Through the story of Al Haft and his fruitless search for diamonds, Conwell highlights how dissatisfaction and the endless search for something better can blind us to the opportunities that already exist in our everyday lives. The discovery of true wealth. After the tragedy of Al Haft, who spent his life searching for diamonds and died without knowing the abundance that was within his reach, Conwell wants to convey a fundamental lesson about true wealth. Wealth is found nearby, in what we already possess. Through the story of the new owner of the Al Haft estate, who found the diamonds without actively searching for them, the author highlights how people often fail to appreciate what is in front of them and instead desperately search for what they believe that they lack. Conwell refers to how, in life, we often become obsessed with the pursuit of something greater, something we believe will bring us happiness or success, without realizing that abundance is already present, in our environment, in our lives. Our relationships, in what we already possess. Al Haft was a victim of this illusion, not seeing the value of the farm he had, while he went in search of something beyond its borders. The lesson Conwell wishes to teach is clear. If we learn to value what we already have, we can discover the true wealth that surrounds us. The obsession with the distant. Conwell explains that the obsession with what is far away is one of the main reasons why people do not find satisfaction in what they have. In Al Haft's case, his desire to find diamonds caused him to get lost on a journey that took him away from what was valuable. The search for something far away often leads us to lose sight of what is really important in our lives, like our relationships, our home, and everything we have built. The author calls for reflection on how our priorities can become misaligned when we are too focused on what we believe we are lacking. When we are so focused on what we don't have, we stop appreciating what we already have. We own. This is one of the most powerful lessons Conwell tries to convey. True satisfaction and wealth come from appreciating what is already in our lives, rather than always searching for something more. Wealth in everyday life. The chapter emphasizes that true wealth is not always material. Many times, happiness and abundance come from simpler things. A loving family, good health, or meaningful relationships. Conwell encourages us to see life through the eyes of someone who seeks beauty and value in the everyday. Instead of constantly chasing what we think we lack, we should start by enjoying the blessings we already have. In this context, wealth is redefined. It is not just about accumulating material goods, but about valuing what we have and taking advantage of the opportunities that our current resources offer us. In this way, we can discover an abundance that is not in the distant or unattainable, but in the close, everyday and accessible. The riches of nature. Conwell also uses nature as an example of abundance. Traveling the world. Al Haft was unable to find the wealth he believed he needed, but the land on his estate, which he already owned, was full of potential and abundance. The diamonds, for example, were not in distant places, but under the land that he himself had cultivated and worked. This example of the hidden wealth in nature shows us how often what we need is in our immediate environment. We just don't see it with the right eyes. Conwell invites his readers to look around and see that everything we need to live a prosperous and fulfilling life is already within our reach. Nature, with its infinite resources and innate beauty, offers us a rich variety of blessings that we often overlook as we look elsewhere for what is already available. Gratitude as the key to wealth. One of the highlights of the chapter is the importance of gratitude. Conwell suggests that instead of constantly chasing after what we don't have, we should learn to be grateful for what is already present. Gratitude, he tells us, opens the doors to new blessings and allows us to see the wealth that already exists around us. It is a change of mentality that allows us to recognize the hidden blessings we have in our daily lives. Freeness transforms the way we see the world. When we are grateful for what we have, our vision changes, and we begin to see what we previously did not value. Conwell concludes that the key to true abundance lies not in what we want or what we believe we lack, but in the ability to value what is already in our hands. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Wealth is closer than we think. What we seek most is often already present in our lives, but we need to learn to appreciate it. 2. The obsession with the distant blinds us to the near. Instead of always seeking more, we should appreciate and enjoy what we already have. 3. Wealth is not only material. Many times, true abundance is in our relationships, our health, and the time we share with others. 4. Gratitude transforms our vision of life. Being grateful for what we have opens the doors to more blessings and allows us to recognize the abundance that already exists around us. 5. Valuing what we have allows us to discover new riches and opportunities that we might otherwise overlook. This chapter reaffirms one of the central lessons of the work. True wealth is not in what we lack, but in what we already have, and learning to see the value in our current blessings is the key to a richer, more fulfilling life. Chapter 10. The value of what we own. In this chapter, Russell Conwell delves into the concept that true wealth is in what we already own. Through his narrative, Conwell reminds us that most people spend their lives searching for something better, something they believe will bring them happiness and fulfillment, without realizing that what they really need is already within their reach. This chapter reinforces the importance of appreciating what we have and understanding that abundance is not always material, but rather lies in the way we value what we already possess. The importance of valuing what we have. Conwell begins this chapter by reflecting on the human tendency to desire what we do not have. People tend to think that if they could have more money, a bigger house, a better car, or more power, then they would be happy. However, the author argues that true happiness and satisfaction do not come from having more, but from appreciating what we already have. The example of Al Haft, who abandoned his farm in search of diamonds, is again cited to illustrate how dissatisfaction with what we have can lead to the loss of what is truly valuable. Al Haft, by selling his land, not only gave up his house, but also a source of untold riches that was already in his possession. The Golconda diamond mine was right beneath his feet, but his desire for something far and greater blinded him to the wealth he already possessed. Conwell urges us not to let the desire for what we don't have make us forget what we already possess. According to the author, if we learn to value what we have, we will discover that many times we are already richer than we imagine. True wealth is being able to appreciate the blessings we have around us, whether in our relationships, our health, or our environment. The danger of greed. Conwell also spends a significant portion of the chapter analyzing the destructive effects of greed. Greed, according to the author, is the insatiable desire to obtain more regardless of the cost. When a person is carried away by greed, they lose sight of what really matters and move away from true satisfaction. Al Haft's story is a clear example of how greed can destroy a life. Al Haft, in his desire to find more wealth, sold his land, his home, and his security. Instead of enjoying what he already had, he let his desire for more consume him completely. Conwell warns that greed never satisfies. As we get more, the desire grows, and we always want more, unable to find satisfaction in what we have achieved. The inner wealth. The author also talks about the importance of recognizing inner wealth, which has nothing to do with what we possess materially. Inner wealth comes from having peace of mind, gratitude, and the ability to see value in what we already have. Satisfaction is not found externally, but in the way we relate to ourselves and the world around us. Conwell points out that many times the happiest people are not necessarily those who have more, but rather those who value what they have and are grateful for the blessings in life. True inner abundance arises from a mindset of gratitude, which allows us to recognize what we have and live in harmony with what surrounds us. The example of nature. The chapter also presents the example of nature as a model of abundance. Conwell describes how nature provides us with everything we need: food, water, air, and the beauty that surrounds us. All of this is freely available, but we often overlook these riches because we are too focused on what we don't have. Nature, according to the author, is a constant reminder of the abundance that already exists. The ability to enjoy what nature offers us, without constantly searching for something else, is an example of wealth. Conwell invites us to look around us and recognize the abundance that nature constantly provides us. The earth itself is full of resources and beauty, and all of it is available to everyone, but only if we learn to value it. The importance of perspective. A crucial part of the lesson Conwell offers in this chapter is the idea that the perspective with which we view our lives and our possessions determines whether we are rich or not. If we see our lives through the eyes of scarcity, we will always feel like we are missing something. But if we change our perspective and see the blessings we already have, we will realize that we are richer than we imagined. Conwell explains that our well-being does not depend on what we own, but on how we choose to appreciate what we have. The perception of abundance can cause us to live a life of contentment, even if our material possessions are not many. Conversely, the perception of scarcity can make us feel like we never have enough, no matter how many things we have. Gratitude as the key to true wealth. Conwell concludes this chapter with a reflection on gratuity and its role in creating true wealth. Gratitude is the key to seeing abundance in our lives, and it is what allows us to recognize the value of what we possess. According to the author, when we are grateful for what we have, our lives are filled with riches. Gratitude not only connects us to what we have, but also opens the doors to more blessings. Conwell reminds us that true wealth comes from appreciating what we already have and living with an abundance mindset. Money and material possessions are only a small part of the equation. True wealth is found in the ability to be at peace with what we have and make the most of the blessings that life offers us. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Wealth is in what we already own. Instead of looking for what we lack, we must learn to appreciate what we already have. 2. Greed never satisfies. The constant search for more only distances us from true satisfaction. 3. Inner wealth comes from having peace, gratitude, and a positive attitude towards life. 4. Nature is a constant reminder of the abundance we have around us. Often, we are surrounded by natural riches that we do not value. 5. Perspective and gratitude are key to living a rich life. If we change the way we see the world, we will realize that we already have everything we need to be happy. This chapter is a powerful reflection on the importance of valuing what we possess and how true wealth does not depend on what we acquire, but on how we enjoy and appreciate what we already have. Conwell invites us to change our mindset and see the abundance that is in front of us, waiting to be recognized. Chapter 11. Stories of those who sold their future in search of gold. In this chapter, Russell Conwell presents various stories of people who, in their insatiable pursuit of wealth, made impulsive decisions that led them to lose what they valued most. Through these stories, the author highlights how the excessive search for gold and material wealth can lead us to lose our way and despise what really matters, what we already possess. Conwell uses these narratives as warnings about how greed and the desire for more can cause us to sacrifice our future, and in many cases what we have around us. The pursuit of riches and the loss of what is valuable. At the beginning of the chapter, Conwell highlights that the desire to obtain more material wealth has been a constant in human history. Since the earliest civilizations, people have been obsessed with finding gold, believing that the accumulation of material wealth is the key to achieving happiness and success. However, Conwell reminds us that, no matter how desirable external riches may seem, true satisfaction comes not from having more, but from learning to appreciate what we already have. The author tells how, during the gold rush in the 19th century, thousands of people ventured in search of gold, leaving their homes, their families, and their stability behind. These people believed that gold would be the answer to their problems and the key to achieving a better life. However, Conwell points out that most of those who set out on this quest never found the gold they sought, and in many cases, ended up losing everything they had ever had. The gold rush as an example of impulsive decisions. Conwell delves into the gold rush and how people made rash decisions based on the desire for immediate wealth. Instead of valuing what they already possessed, such as their homes, land, and stability, they embarked on a blind and unprepared search for something that promised them a better life, but that in many cases turned into a tragedy. The author highlights that many people sold all their properties to finance their search for gold, but when they did not find it, they lost everything. The gold rush shows how people, in seeking quick riches, lose sight of what is truly valuable in their lives. The story of the gold diggers is a reminder that material wealth alone does not guarantee happiness or success. The obsession with more money can lead us to lose what really matters: stability, relationships, and inner peace. The tragedy of selling the future. Conwell tells stories of individuals who made decisions so extreme that they lost their future. In many cases, these people sold their land, homes, and belongings to finance the search for something they considered more valuable, only to discover that the gold they wanted was not there, or that what they found was not worth the sacrifice. One of the most moving stories is that of a man who, upon learning of the opportunities for wealth in a distant gold mine, sold everything he had to finance his journey to the mine. Despite his efforts and sacrifices, the man never found gold and was forced to return home, exhausted and penniless, losing everything he had sold. Conwell uses this story to illustrate how the pursuit of quick riches can lead us to lose our most valuable possessions, often leaving us with nothing. The value of what we have around us. Throughout the chapter, Conwell highlights how impulsive decisions based on greed can blind us to the opportunities and wealth we already have around us. Like Al Haft, who sold his farm in search of diamonds without realizing that he already owned a diamond mine on his own property, many people in the gold rush did not value what they had and lost everything that belonged to them in his desire to find something better. The central message of this chapter is clear: true wealth is not always in what we look for in distant places. Many times it is right in front of us, in the simplest things and closest to our daily lives. Family, health, inner peace, and home are examples of riches that, if we value them, allow us to live a rich and satisfying life, without always having to look for something else. Conwell reflects on how greed and the constant desire for more can cause us to lose perspective on what really matters. If we constantly focus on what we don't have, we strip ourselves of the ability to enjoy what we already have. The cost of greed and constant dissatisfaction. The chapter also addresses the concept of constant dissatisfaction and how, when we seek external wealth without valuing what we have, we are losing the opportunity to be truly happy. Greed leads us to believe that if we get more material things, we will be happier. However, as the story of Al Haft and the stories of the gold diggers demonstrate, this desire for more is never satisfied. Constant dissatisfaction becomes a vicious cycle that distances us from true happiness. The author emphasizes that happiness often does not come from having more, but from appreciating what we already have and living at peace with our circumstances. The value of what we possess today, whether in terms of emotional well-being, family stability, or financial peace of mind, is the true treasure that many of us seek in vain in the future. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Greed never satisfies. The desire for more distances us from what we already have and prevents us from seeing what is truly valuable. 2. Impulsive decisions based on the pursuit of quick riches can lead to the loss of what really matters in our lives. 3. True wealth is not in what we seek in the future, but in what we have in the present. Abundance is often right in front of us, but we don't see it because we are obsessed with what we don't have. 4. Happiness does not come from more material things, but from appreciating what we already possess and living in gratitude for it. 5. Constant dissatisfaction blinds us and makes us lose sight of the blessings we already have in our daily lives. This chapter reinforces the message that true wealth is not in the constant search for something better, but in appreciating what we already have. As in the stories of the gold rush and the life of Al Haft, the excessive pursuit of wealth can blind us to what we really have around us, and we lose what is valuable in the process. Chapter 12. The young man who left his education for gold. In this chapter, Russell Conwell presents the story of a young man who, in his desire to achieve wealth quickly, left behind his education and everything he had learned to pursue the dream of obtaining gold. This young man's story highlights one of the book's key themes: the mistaken decision to abandon what we already have in search of something uncertain, and the consequences of not valuing knowledge and education. The young man's impulsive decision. The chapter begins with a story of a young man who, having received a good education, had a promising life ahead of him. He had the opportunity to take advantage of his education and work on something that would benefit him in the long term. However, upon learning that gold had been discovered in a nearby region, he decided to abandon his education and all his stability to seek his fortune. The promise of immediate riches blinded him, and without thinking, he made the decision to abandon everything he had built. Conwell describes how this young man, like Al Haft and the gold diggers, was carried away by the illusion of quick wealth, without understanding that education and knowledge are resources far more valuable than any material treasure he could find. The impulsive decision to abandon his education cost him more than he had anticipated, and became an example of how the desire for more wealth can cause us to make decisions that distance us from our true potential. The get-rich-quick hoax. Conwell explains how the idea that gold or material wealth will bring us happiness and success is a common delusion. The young man, upon leaving his education, thought that if he found gold, he could solve all his financial problems and achieve happiness. However, what he discovered when he arrived in the mining region was that the search for gold was not as simple as seemed. The mines were not full of easy-to-find gold. Instead, the young man had to work hard under harsh conditions and without satisfactory results. Little by little, he realized that his education and the skills he had acquired were much more valuable in building a stable and successful life than the pursuit of material wealth. Conwell makes a deep reflection on how the search for quick gold can make us miss what really matters. The young man's story is a reminder that, often, when we make impulsive decisions based on the desire to obtain more, we lose the opportunities we already had that could have given us a better life in the long term. The young man's return to his home. After several months of fruitless efforts, the young man decided to return home, exhausted, frustrated, and without money. When he arrived again, he realized that he had lost valuable years of his life, and that everything he had left behind, including his education, was no longer something he could easily regain. This return symbolizes a big lesson about how desperation to find quick wealth can cause us to disregard the long-term opportunities that are already within our reach. The young man realized that the education and knowledge he had abandoned were more valuable than any gold mine, and that he had made an irreversible mistake by ignoring what he already possessed in his life. Lessons about education and knowledge. Conwell takes advantage of this story to reflect on the importance of education. Instead of abandoning his education in search of gold, the young man could have used his wisdom and knowledge to build a stronger and more fulfilling future. Education not only provides useful skills for earning a living, but also opens the mind to new ideas and opportunities, which do not always depend on material things, but on the ability to take advantage of what we have. The author emphasizes that education is a resource that cannot be taken away. While material wealth, such as gold, can be ephemeral and not always accessible, knowledge and education are tools that accompany us throughout life and provide us with constant and lasting wealth. The cost of abandoning what is valuable. One of the central lessons of this chapter is that, like Al Haft and the young man who left his education, when we abandon what we have in search of something uncertain, we pay a high price. This price is not always evident at first, but over time we realize that we have missed opportunities that we cannot recover. Instead of embarking on a desperate search for material wealth, we must learn to take advantage of what we already possess, such as knowledge, stability, and relationships. Conwell also highlights that the desire for quick riches can blind us to long-term growth opportunities. Success is not measured by the amount of money we earn, but by our ability to make wise decisions that allow us to enjoy a full life. Education, in this sense, is one of the best investments we can make, since it gives us the necessary tools to prosper not only materially, but also emotionally and spiritually. The value of perseverance and patience. Conwell concludes this chapter with an important message. Wealth does not always come quickly, but patience and perseverance in following a correct path will bring long-term rewards. Education and constant work are much more valuable than the ephemeral riches that seem to arise immediately. Over time, people who dedicate themselves to learning and continually improving their skills will find the success they seek, while those who focus only on the immediate often end up missing out on what could have truly ensured their future prosperity. Lessons from the chapter. 1. The pursuit of quick riches can lead us to miss out on what really matters: our education, our relationships, and our long-term opportunities. 2. Education is a lasting wealth. Knowledge not only allows us to earn a living, but also gives us the tools to make wise decisions and prosper. 3. Greed and the desire for more can blind us to the opportunities for long-term growth and success that are available to us. 4. Perseverance and patience on the path of learning lead us to a wealth much greater than any material treasure. 5. The value of what we possess. Sometimes what we have is already more valuable than what we are looking for outside. Learning to value education and knowledge is the key to building a full and successful life. This chapter reminds us that true wealth is not found in the impulsive pursuit of gold or material wealth, but in investing in our knowledge, our education, and our ability to make wise, sustainable long-term decisions. Chapter 13. The Change of Mentality. From rags to riches. In this chapter, Russell Conwell explores the powerful transformation that occurs when we shift our mindset from scarcity to one of abundance. This change in perspective is one of the fundamental keys to understanding how we can transform our lives and achieve prosperity. Through this chapter, Conwell seeks to inspire her readers to recognize their own power to change their destiny, not only through actions, but also through an internal change in thinking. The poverty mentality. An invisible obstacle. Conwell begins the chapter by reflecting on what he calls the poverty mentality. According to the author, many people live their lives with a scarcity mentality, believing that they will never have enough. This mentality, fueled by doubt and fear, becomes an invisible obstacle that limits our opportunities. The poverty mentality is characterized by a belief in a lack of resources, the idea that we will always lack something or that the world does not offer enough opportunities for everyone. This way of thinking limits our ability to see the opportunities that exist around us, as we are too focused on what we don't have. Conwell highlights that mental poverty is more harmful than material poverty, because the former prevents us from taking advantage of the opportunities that are within our reach. The power of positive mindset. On the contrary, a positive and abundance mindset can be the transformative change that allows us to overcome the barriers we have imposed on ourselves. Conwell claims that when we change our mindset and begin to believe in abundance, we become more open to opportunities, more willing to work hard and take calculated risks. This mindset allows us to see possibilities where others see obstacles. The author illustrates this concept through several stories of people who, although starting from very humble circumstances, changed their way of thinking and achieved great success. This internal change was the first step on their path to wealth, as they began to see the world in a different way, focused not on what they lacked, but on what they could create. The role of thought in wealth creation. Conwell highlights that our thoughts are incredibly powerful and play a key role in our ability to create the life we want. According to the author, the mind is the soil where the seed of prosperity is sown. When we think positive and productive thoughts, we are sowing the seeds of wealth, both material and emotional. If, on the other hand, our mind is full of doubts and negative thoughts, we are blocking our own success. Action is essential for success, but Conwell stresses that action without a proper mindset rarely leads to positive results. It is necessary to change the way we think so that our actions align with our goals. The first step towards wealth is, therefore, to modify our way of thinking and acting accordingly. The importance of believing in yourself and changing your mindset towards wealth. One of the most important aspects is believing in yourself. Conwell explains that self-confidence is essential for people to be able to take control of their lives and achieve success. If we believe we are capable of achieving something, we are more inclined to act consistently with that belief. On the other hand, lack of self-confidence generates doubt and paralysis. People who don't believe in their ability to succeed tend to doubt their decisions and let fear hold them back. Conwell, therefore, highlights the importance of cultivating a mindset of trust and believing in the power of our decisions. The effect of mindset on relationships. Another aspect that Conwell addresses in this chapter is the impact of mindset on our interpersonal relationships. The way we think about ourselves and our ability to succeed greatly influences how we interact with others. If we have an abundance mindset, we surround ourselves with people who also have a positive mindset, creating a virtuous cycle of mutual support and growth. Conversely, those with a scarcity mindset often feel insecure, which can lead to strained and unproductive relationships. Conwell suggests that people with an abundance mindset tend to be more generous, collaborative, and optimistic, which strengthens their relationships and ultimately leads to success. Mentality as a driver of action. Conwell emphasizes that mindset is not just a passive state of thought, but a driver of action. The way we think drives us to act more effectively and make decisions aligned with our values and goals. If we believe we can be successful, we will take the necessary steps to achieve that success. If, on the other hand, we believe that success is unattainable or that we are not capable of achieving it, our actions will reflect that belief, and we will most likely fail. Conwell emphasizes that the right action depends on the right mindset. A positive mindset allows us to see opportunities in every situation, and gives us the drive to act decisively and with confidence. The power of visualization in changing mentality. An important point that Conwell touches on is the power of visualization in creating a new mindset. Visualization, or the process of clearly imagining our goals and the success we want to achieve, activates our mind and helps us focus on what we want. The mind, when visualized positively, begins to look for solutions and see opportunities where there were none before. Conwell notes that many successful people in everything from business to sports have used visualization to navigate challenges and achieve their goals. Seeing success in our mind before it happens in reality is a way of preparing our body and mind to receive what we want. Lessons from the chapter. 1. The abundance mentality is essential to creating wealth. Changing our way of thinking can change our lives radically. 2. Mental poverty is characterized by the belief in scarcity, and this mentality limits us. To create prosperity, we need to believe in abundance. 3. Self-confidence is the key to taking decisive action. If we believe in ourselves, we will be better able to take control of our destiny. 4. Positive visualization helps align our actions with our goals and mentally prepares us for success. 5. Interpersonal relationships are influenced by our mentality. People with an abundance mentality attract positive and collaborative relationships. This chapter highlights the deep relationship between our mindset and the success we achieve in life. Conwell shows us that the change towards prosperity begins with an internal change, believing in abundance and acting with confidence in our abilities. Chapter 14. The man who found oil under his farm. In this chapter, Russell Conwell presents a story about a man who, like many other characters in the book, did not understand the value of what he already owned until it was too late. Conwell uses this story to illustrate how, many times, people do not appreciate what they have, either due to ignorance or being too focused on what they lack, and how this mistake can lead them to miss opportunities that are already within their reach. The story of a farmer and his accidental discovery. Conwell begins the chapter by telling the story of a man who lived on a large farm in a remote place. This man, despite having fertile land and a stable life, was not satisfied with what he had. He dreamed of material riches and, like many of the other characters in the play, began searching for something out of reach. The man heard rumors that oil had been found nearby, and this aroused his greed. Believing that the key to his prosperity was finding oil, he decided to sell his farm and set out in search of wealth. He left behind everything he had without valuing the real wealth that was around him. The lesson of loss. After selling his land, the man spent years searching for oil in other regions, spending what was left of his money and exhausting his strength in the search. However, it never found oil. Finally, now without resources, he returned to his old property, where he discovered that the new owner of his farm had found oil under the land he himself had left. Conwell uses this story to illustrate how the constant pursuit of wealth can lead us to despise what we already have. In this man's case, the oil he longed for was literally beneath his feet, on his own land, but he couldn't see it because he was too obsessed with the idea of finding riches elsewhere. The price of not appreciating what you have. Conwell delves into the topic of how dissatisfaction and obsession with something more can lead to the loss of what we already have. In the story of the man who sold his land, we see how the desire to obtain something that seemed bigger and more valuable blinded him to the real wealth that he already possessed. This man, like Al Haft, lost his prosperity because he failed to recognize the abundance that was already around him. The author points out that these types of decisions, based on the desire for something bigger and brighter, are common in the lives of many people. The constant desire to improve, to have more, can lose sight of what we already have and lead us to make decisions that destroy our stability and happiness. In this case, the man sacrificed his land and the possibility of wealth to pursue a distant dream, only to discover that the wealth was always present in his own property. The importance of valuing what we have. Throughout the chapter, Conwell reflects on how we often seek material wealth in distant places, without valuing what we already possess. Stories like this man's serve as an important reminder that true abundance is not always in what we wish to find in the future, but in what is already in front of us. Conwell points out that this man could have been rich if he had continued to value his land and work on his property. In fact, the oil he so desired was on his own land, but greed and dissatisfaction led him to make a hasty decision that deprived him of the opportunity to enjoy the wealth he already possessed. The impact of the scarcity mentality. The author also touches on the scarcity mentality that many share, and how this mentality causes us to believe that we never have enough. The constant search for more, guided by the idea that what we have is not enough, can harm us and cause us to lose what we already have. In this case, the man left behind a fertile property in search of riches that he thought would bring him happiness and success. The story is a clear example of how the scarcity mentality can blind us to the abundance that already exists in our lives. When we think we need something more to be happy, we lose sight of the opportunities we have in front of us. The value of what is close. This chapter is, in many ways, a reminder of the importance of valuing what is close. Instead of always chasing what we think we need, we should appreciate what we have. Many times, wealth is close to us. We just need to open our eyes to see it. Conwell argues that if the man who left his farm had understood this principle, he would never have sold his property and would have found the oil that was just beneath his soil. The author emphasizes that true wealth lies in the ability to recognize the opportunities we already have and to work with what we have. Success does not always come from what we look for outside our environment, but from what we already possess and how we use it. The change in the way of thinking. Conwell concludes this chapter with a reflection on the change in mindset required to achieve wealth. The man who sold his farm was not poor, nor did he lack the opportunity to prosper. His poverty was mental. By not appreciating what he had, he wasted his opportunity. If he had changed his perspective and valued his land, he would have seen the potential that already existed. Wealth does not always require us to look far from home, but rather we must learn to see the value in what we already have. This chapter reinforces the idea that abundance is close to us. We just need to learn to see it and take advantage of it. Sometimes the treasure we seek is right under our feet, and all we need is a change of mindset to recognize it. Lessons from the chapter. 1. We should not underestimate what we already possess. True wealth lies in appreciating what is close and working with what we have. 2. Greed and the desire for more can blind us to the opportunities that are already in front of us. 3. The scarcity mentality makes us believe that we never have enough, which can lead us to lose what we already have. 4. Abundance is close to us, and what we seek elsewhere is often right in our own environment. 5. The value of what is close and the change of mentality are key to taking advantage of the opportunities that we have at our disposal. This chapter reminds us that wealth is not always in what we want to obtain, but in appreciating what we already have and working with it to build the future we want. Chapter 15. The story of the young man who searched for gold in California. In this chapter, Russell Conwell presents the story of a young man who, like other characters in the play, seeks wealth in distant places, without valuing what is close to him. Conwell uses this story to highlight that many times the pursuit of material wealth causes us to lose what is truly valuable in our lives. The story also serves as a reminder that perseverance, patience, and the right focus are keys to achieving true success. The young man who dreamed of quick wealth. Conwell begins the chapter by telling the story of a young man who, like many others in his time, embarked on a search for gold in California. During the famous gold rush of the mid-19th century, thousands of people traveled to the western United States, believing they would find quick fortunes by digging in the mines. This young man, driven by the dream of getting rich quickly, decided to leave his home and family behind to join the search. Conwell explains that the young man was so focused on the promise of quick wealth that he did not value what he already had. Despite having a supportive home and family, he believed that his happiness and success would only be possible if he struck gold. Like many others in the gold rush, he was convinced that material wealth was the key to happiness, and that gold could solve all his problems. The difficult reality of young people in California. Once in California, the young man began to dig in the gold mines with great expectations, but soon realized that reality did not match his dreams. Work in the mines was arduous and competition was fierce. Despite the hard work, the young man did not find the gold he had dreamed of. The days passed and the young man's hopes faded. He was not only physically exhausted, but also emotionally, as the promise of wealth he had pursued turned into a nightmare of frustration. Conwell describes how, after months of hard work, the young man failed to find gold and ended up returning home poorer than when he left. He realized that the promise of quick riches he had followed was nothing more than an illusion. Upon returning home, the young man realized that true wealth was not in gold, but in what he had left behind: his family, his home, and his community. The lesson of return. Conwell uses the young man's return as a profound lesson about the true sources of wealth. The young man had believed that gold would be the key to his success, but upon returning, he discovered that what really mattered was not gold or material wealth, but the stability and love he had in his life. This realization allowed him to understand that true success is not always measured in money, but in the ability to value what we already have. The young man, reflecting on his experience, realized that he had lost much more than money by embarking on his quest. He had wasted time and neglected his home, his relationships, and his emotional well-being. The desire for more had blinded him to the invisible riches that were already present in his life, and this discovery led him to deep reflection on what really mattered. The value of what we have nearby. This chapter reinforces the central message of the work. True wealth is not always in what we seek outside of ourselves, but in what we already possess. Often our blessings and wealth are close to us, in the simple, everyday things that we often overlook as we pursue what we think we need. The story of the young man who searched for gold is a reminder of how greed and the desire for more can cause us to lose what is truly valuable in our lives. Conwell emphasizes that this young man was not poor when he began his journey. He had a home, a family, and the opportunity to build a stable life. But in his search for more, he disregarded those blessings in favor of something he thought would make him happy. True wealth, Conwell teaches us, is appreciating what we already have, being grateful for what that we possess, and not let the obsession with what we lack blind us to the present blessings. The importance of gratitude. Throughout the chapter, Conwell highlights the importance of gratitude as one of the keys to discovering the wealth that is already in our lives. The young man, upon returning home, finally began to appreciate what he had neglected: his family, his community, and his environment. Gratitude for what he already had was what allowed him to change his perspective and begin to see the blessings he had previously ignored. Conwell invites us to reflect on how gratitude transforms our way of seeing the world. When we are grateful for what we have, we open ourselves to new opportunities and become more apt to see what is available around us. Gratitude not only connects us to what we already have, but also prepares us to receive more of what life has to offer us. The value of perseverance and patience. Conwell also addresses the concept of perseverance and patience as essential elements on the path to success. Often, the path to wealth is not direct or quick. The young man in the story was looking for immediate results, but true wealth is often obtained through years of constant work, patience, and dedication. The search for gold and quick riches, according to Conwell, is a trap that leads us away from essential values such as stability, grace, and persistent work. Lessons from the chapter. 1. True wealth is not found in material wealth, but in appreciating what we already have in our lives. 2. Gratitude transforms our perspective, allowing us to see the blessings that are already around us. 3. Perseverance and patience are key on the path to success. The pursuit of quick wealth can distance us from more lasting opportunities. 4. Gold and material wealth do not guarantee happiness. Success lies in valuing our relationships, our home, and our health. 5. The constant search for more can blind us to what we already have and make us lose sight of what really matters. This chapter reinforces the central idea that true wealth lies in appreciating what we have and working with what we have. The young man who panned for gold in California is an example of how greed and obsession with money can cause us to lose what really matters, and how gratitude for what we already have can be the key to a rich and fulfilling life. Chapter 16. The importance of seeing what is close to us. In this chapter, Russell Conwell continues to develop the idea that true wealth and opportunity are often right in front of us, waiting to be seen. Throughout the chapter, Conwell challenges us to change our perception, to see what is close to us, and to appreciate the opportunities that already exist around us. This change in perspective is essential to achieving a prosperous and successful life. The wrong vision. Looking outside what is close to us. Conwell begins the chapter with a reflection on how people tend to look outside themselves for what they need, whether it be wealth, success, or happiness. Most people, like Al Haft and the other characters in the book, are obsessed with the idea that success is somewhere far away, something out of their reach. This leads them to leave behind what is close to them and embark on an endless search for material things or experiences that they believe will bring them happiness. The author points out that often the true wealth and opportunities we seek are right in front of us, in what we already have. Conwell uses the story of Al Haft as an example of how the desire to find something better can blind us to the abundance we already possess. The wisdom of the place where we are. Conwell emphasizes that true wisdom and prosperity do not necessarily depend on looking outside our environment, but on learning to appreciate and take advantage of what is already around us. The story of Al Haft, who sold his farm without realizing that the diamond mine was right under his feet, is a clear example of how a scarcity mentality can make us ignore what we already own. The author invites us to reflect on the importance of taking advantage of nearby opportunities, whether in our work, in our family, in our relationships, or in the skills we have already developed. Abundance is present in our daily lives, but we must change our mentality to be able to recognize it. Seeing what is close connects us with our true prosperity. Conwell also talks about how simply changing our perception allows us to see new opportunities. When we value what we have, we open our minds to the possibilities that are already available to us. True prosperity is not only measured in terms of money or material goods, but in our ability to recognize the blessings we have and work with what we have. The chapter emphasizes the importance of becoming more aware of our environment, of the opportunities and resources that are already available, and of taking advantage of the relationships and knowledge we already possess. Often, the people who seem to be the most successful are not necessarily those who have the most wealth, but rather those who have learned to see and take advantage of the blessings and opportunities around them. The power of gratitude and perspective. One of the most important points of the chapter is the idea that gratitude and a positive outlook are key to changing the way we see the opportunities that are already close at hand. Conwell points out that often the key to prosperity is not in searching for what we lack, but in appreciating what we already have. Conwell points out that people who practice gratitude and appreciate the blessings they already have often have an abundance mindset that allows them to see opportunities where others see obstacles. Gratitude is, according to the author, a powerful catalyst for attracting more good things in life, as it changes our perspective from what we believe we lack to what we already have. The story of those who found wealth nearby. Throughout the chapter, Conwell shares examples of people who, by changing their thinking, found wealth in what initially seemed common or worthless. These examples include stories of entrepreneurs who started with limited resources but took advantage of opportunities close to them to build great companies, or people who found value in everyday life and relationships, rather than in the pursuit of material wealth. One of the most notable stories is that of a person who started a business with little money, but by taking advantage of local opportunities and being grateful for what he had, he managed to expand his business and achieve success. This story exemplifies how, instead of looking outside for what we need, true wealth often lies in working with what we already have and being creative with the resources available. The true meaning of prosperity. Conwell concludes the chapter with a reflection on what it really means to thrive. Prosperity is not measured solely by what we have materially, but by our ability to see the blessings that already exist in our lives. Prosperity lies in appreciating and taking advantage of nearby opportunities, rather than being obsessed with what we lack. The chapter emphasizes that true wealth is not necessarily found in gold or the accumulation of material goods, but in the ability to find abundance in what we have and work with it effectively. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Wealth is close to us, often in what we already possess, but we need to learn to appreciate and take advantage of what is close. 2. Changing mentality is key to seeing opportunities that we did not see before. The abundance mindset allows us to see what is already available to us. 3. Gratitude and a positive outlook are powerful tools to see what we have and attract more abundance into our lives. 4. True prosperity is not measured by what we have materially, but by how we value and take advantage of what we have. 5. Seeing what is close connects us with our true wealth, since prosperity is not always in what we look for outside, but in what we already possess. This chapter reinforces the importance of appreciating what we already have and changing our perception to recognize the riches that are in front of us. Conwell reminds us that true prosperity comes from seeing what is close and working with what we have, instead of always looking for what we think we are missing. Chapter 17. The story of the shoemaker who learned to fish. In this chapter, Russell Conwell presents the story of a shoemaker who, like many of the previous characters in the book, began life on what seemed to be a modest path, but through a change of mind and a focus on new opportunities, found prosperity in his life unexpectedly. The shoemaker's story highlights the importance of taking advantage of nearby opportunities, learning new skills, and being flexible in the face of change. The simple life of the shoemaker. The chapter begins with the story of a man who worked as a shoemaker in a small town. Despite having a stable job, the shoemaker felt dissatisfied with his life. His income was limited, and he often encountered financial difficulties. Although his job provided him with a modest living, it did not bring him the wealth or success he desired. The shoemaker lived a simple life, but his desire to improve his financial situation led him to look for something bigger. He thought that if he could make more money, he could obtain the happiness and prosperity he longed for. The change of mentality of the shoemaker. One day, the shoemaker heard about a nearby river that was full of fish and that many people made money by fishing. Motivated by the idea that fishing could be a source of wealth, the shoemaker decided to learn to fish and try his luck in this new path. He temporarily left his job as a shoemaker and dedicated himself completely to learning the trade of fishing. At first, the shoemaker had many difficulties. Fishing didn't turn out to be as easy as I thought. He spent weeks without capturing anything significant. Despite this, he did not give up. He persisted, learned the proper techniques, and began to improve his skill. Soon, he discovered that fishing not only kept him busy, but gave him a sense of satisfaction and a new source of income. The skill of fishing complemented his work as a shoemaker and provided him with a new way to generate wealth. Wealth is not in one place. Through the story of the shoemaker, Conwell highlights that wealth does not necessarily lie in a single source. Often, the key to improving our lives and finances is to diversify our skills and take advantage of nearby opportunities that we may not have considered before. The shoemaker was not satisfied with his initial situation, but expanded his skills and took advantage of what was close to him to improve his quality of life. The shoemaker's story illustrates how a flexible approach and willingness to learn something new can be the keys to achieving prosperity. We must not limit ourselves to a single path, but be willing to explore new avenues that can complement what we are already doing. The power of learning new skills. Conwell emphasizes the importance of learning new skills throughout life. Many times people stay stuck in a single job or activity, believing that what they know is the only thing that will allow them to prosper. However, the cobbler demonstrates that learning something new, like fishing, can open doors to unexpected opportunities and provide us with a new perspective. The author points out that the ability to adapt and learn new skills is a fundamental quality to achieve lasting success. Wealth comes not only from what we already know, but from our ability to learn and evolve based on the circumstances and opportunities that arise. The balance between work and opportunity. One of the most important lessons of this chapter is that the shoemaker, although he learned to fish, did not abandon his main job. He decided to complement his job as a shoemaker with his ability to fish. This balance between stable work and new opportunities allowed him to find sustainable prosperity. Conwell uses this story to underscore the importance of maintaining a solid foundation while exploring new opportunities. Often, the key to creating wealth is to diversify our sources of income and not depend on a single activity or skill. The ability to adapt and take advantage of what is close to us can give us the flexibility and stability needed to thrive. Success through perseverance. Although the shoemaker had difficulties at first, Conwell highlights that his perseverance was essential to his success. He did not give up in the face of difficulties, but rather persisted, improved his skill, and eventually began to reap the fruits of his labor. This is an important reminder that, on the path to prosperity, perseverance is crucial. The author emphasizes that we should not expect success to come quickly, but rather we should be willing to work constantly and learn from our experiences. True wealth is not just the result of a stroke of luck, but of dedication, continuous effort, and the desire to improve. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Wealth is not always in one place. The key to success is taking advantage of what is close to us and being willing to learn new skills. 2. Flexibility and adaptability are essential to take advantage of the opportunities that life presents us. 3. Perseverance is a key component of success. We must not give up in the face of challenges, but continue working with determination. 4. Diversifying our sources of income and being willing to explore new areas can provide us with greater stability and prosperity. 5. Success is not immediate, but requires constant work and the willingness to learn and grow. This chapter illustrates how adaptability, perseverance, and appreciation for nearby opportunities can be key to achieving a richer, more fulfilling life. Like the shoemaker who learned to fish, we must be willing to explore new avenues of prosperity, without abandoning what we already have, but constantly expanding our skills and opportunities. Chapter 18. The Maple Tree and Hidden Wealth. In this chapter, Russell Conwell uses the symbolism of a maple tree to illustrate a profound lesson about how wealth and opportunity can be hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those who are willing to look beyond the pale. Through this allegory, Conwell teaches us that true wealth is not always immediate or evident, and that we must often learn to see beyond appearances to discover the blessings and opportunities that already exist in our lives. The history of the maple tree. Conwell begins this chapter by telling the story of a man who, walking through the countryside, found a small maple tree growing in a seemingly inhospitable and arid field. The tree appeared to be worthless, as its location was not ideal for its growth. However, the curious man decided to examine it more closely and discovered that the maple tree, despite its apparent weakness, had a hidden wealth: the sweet sap that flowed from its bark. This discovery was astonishing to the man, who, upon closer inspection, realized that the tree, although it did not look like a tree of wealth on the outside, possessed a hidden treasure that he could only discover when he decided to look further afield. Of appearances. The value of the hidden. Conwell uses this maple tree as a metaphor to illustrate how the opportunities and riches we seek in life are often hidden beneath superficial layers. Often, people seek material wealth in obvious places or through already established paths, not realizing that the best opportunities may be hidden in what we consider ordinary or insignificant. The maple tree represents how true wealth is not always in what is visible to the naked eye. Sometimes we must look beyond what we think we know or what we hope to find to discover what is truly valuable. The lesson on inner wealth. Conwell also reflects on how this story of the maple tree can be applied to our inner lives. Like the tree, many times our best qualities and inner resources are hidden beneath the surface. True wealth, the author tells us, is not found only in money or material possessions, but in the skills, creativity and potential that we all carry within us, but that we often do not value or do not explore enough. Conwell points out that we often focus too much on the external and material, without taking the time to develop our inner riches. The maple tree is a reminder that the best opportunities and resources in our lives may be hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered by those who are willing to delve beyond the obvious. The importance of exploring and discovering the hidden throughout the chapter. Conwell encourages us to explore and search beyond the obvious. Many times, the most valuable opportunities in life do not come in the form we expect, and that is why we need to be patient and watch out for the small signs and opportunities that others may miss. Wealth is often in the least expected places, and it is only through curiosity and openness that we can discover it. The maple tree also represents the process of discovery. At first, the tree did not seem to be anything special, but as he delved deeper into it, the man discovered something valuable and unique. Similarly, our opportunities and talents may seem insignificant at first, but if we take the time to explore and cultivate them, we will discover riches we could not have imagined before. The wisdom of seeing beyond appearances. Conwell also emphasizes the importance of seeing beyond appearances. The maple tree at first appeared to be just an ordinary tree, but when the man approached and took a closer look, he discovered that it possessed an inner richness. This is a reminder that life's best opportunities often don't come packaged the way we expect or want to see them. It is necessary to lose the fear of the unknown and be willing to explore what others discard. The chapter challenges us to change the way we see the world. Instead of focusing on what we lack or what we think we need, we must learn to value what we already have and see the opportunities that already exist around us, but are not always immediately evident. Growth and patience. Conwell also stresses the importance of patience and slow growth. The maple tree did not become rich immediately. Like us, it must grow little by little, and only with time is its true value discovered. This is a key lesson in how prosperity does not always come immediately, but often requires time, patience, and constant work. The story of the tree reminds us that success is not always the result of quick or impulsive action, but rather the result of a gradual process in which we cultivate our skills and take advantage of the opportunities that life presents to us. Instead of looking for shortcuts or quick fixes, we must learn to value the process and enjoy the journey to prosperity. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Wealth is not always evident. The best opportunities are often hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. 2. Internal value is as important as external value. We must learn to appreciate our inner riches, such as our skills and talents. 3. Curiosity and exploration are key to discovering opportunities that others might overlook. 4. Patience and gradual growth are essential to achieving lasting success. 5. Seeing beyond appearances allows us to recognize the blessings that already exist in our lives. This chapter illustrates how opportunities and riches are often hidden beneath the surface and how, like the maple tree, we must learn to see beyond appearances and appreciate what is truly valuable. Conwell challenges us to open our eyes to the blessings that are already around us and to work with what we have to achieve success. Chapter 19. Meeting community needs. In this chapter, Russell Conwell addresses a fundamental concept in wealth creation: serving others. Through various stories and examples, Conwell emphasizes that true success and prosperity are not achieved solely through the accumulation of personal wealth, but through a commitment to meeting the needs of the community. In this context, the chapter offers lessons on how we can build a richer and more fulfilling life by contributing to the well-being of those around us. The power of community service. Conwell begins the chapter by highlighting the importance of serving others as a means to creating a fulfilling life. According to the author, people who have achieved real and lasting success have not done so simply by seeking their own benefit, but have found success by solving problems and meeting the needs of the community. Conwell emphasizes that service is the key to generating prosperity, both personally and collectively. The author invites us to reflect on how, by serving others, we improve the lives of those around us and, paradoxically, we also improve our own lives. This lesson is especially important in the context of the pursuit of wealth, as people who seek only self-gain often feel empty, while those who focus on giving find lasting satisfaction. The principle of give to receive. Throughout the chapter, Conwell emphasizes the principle of giving to receive. This principle states that by meeting the needs of others, we generate positive energy that is ultimately returned to us. Conwell explains that when we contribute to the well-being of others, we are not only helping the community, but we are also opening doors for new opportunities that can benefit us in ways we would not have anticipated. The author offers examples of entrepreneurs who, early in their careers, focused on providing a valuable product or service to the community. By doing so, they gained the trust of their customers and, over time, saw their businesses grow and prosper. Conwell emphasizes that service is at the core of success and that instead of focusing only on what we can get, we should ask ourselves what we can offer to others. The connection between community and prosperity. Conwell also reflects on how community and success are intertwined. The well-being of the community, whether in a small city or a large metropolis, has a direct impact on our personal prosperity. When we support our community, whether by providing services, creating jobs, or contributing to general well-being, we help ourselves by strengthening the social and economic networks around us. This principle highlights the idea that personal success does not occur in a vacuum, but within a collective environment. By helping others, we not only promote the common well-being, but also create a favorable environment for our own success, as collective prosperity drives our personal prosperity. The key to long-term success. Contributing to the common good. Conwell concludes the chapter with a reflection on the importance of contributing to the common good as a key to long-term success. The author invites us to think beyond our personal goals and consider how our actions can improve the world around us. Conwell reminds us that people who focus solely on accumulating wealth often find that money alone does not bring happiness, while those who dedicate their time and energy to contributing to the well-being of others find much deeper satisfaction. Furthermore, Conwell emphasizes that lasting prosperity comes not from what we get, but from what we give. True wealth, according to the author, is found in the balance between the pursuit of our personal goals and the desire to help others achieve their own goals. Success is achieved when we work together to improve the quality of life in our community, which, in turn, contributes to our own personal and professional growth. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Serving others is a powerful means to create personal and collective prosperity. By meeting the needs of the community, we find success. 2. The principle of give to receive is key. By offering value to others, we open doors to new opportunities that benefit both ourselves and others. 3. Success is not achieved in isolation. Collective prosperity has a direct impact on our personal prosperity, so contributing to the common good is essential. 4. True wealth is not only in what we obtain but in what we give to others. Contributing to the well-being of the community is essential for a rich and fulfilling life. 5. Lasting satisfaction comes from doing something meaningful for others, not just accumulating material wealth. Positive impact on the lives of others can offer deep satisfaction. This chapter emphasizes the importance of serving others as a way to create prosperity on both a personal and community level. The principle of giving to receive teaches us that true wealth comes from our ability to contribute to the common good, which in turn translates into lasting success and personal satisfaction. Conwell invites us to leverage our skills and resources to improve the lives of others, which ultimately becomes a path to true prosperity. Chapter 20. Finding value nearby. Wealth is within your reach. In this final chapter, Russell Conwell recaps the lessons he has taught throughout the book, with a final focus on the importance of finding value in what is close. Through various stories and examples, Conwell reaffirms his central message. True wealth is not in the distance, nor in what we think we lack, but in what we already have, in our immediate environment and in the opportunities that lie ahead. Within our reach. This chapter invites us to recognize the value of what is close to us and to take advantage of the opportunities that already exist, without always looking for something further away. Wealth is in what you already have. Conwell begins this chapter by reaffirming that wealth is not always in what we seek outside of ourselves, but in what we already possess. Often, people embark on endless searches for something they believe will bring them happiness or success, when in reality, prosperity is already present in their lives, waiting to be recognized. The author explains that, many times, dissatisfaction, and the constant desire for more blind us to what is close to us. People tend to focus on what they lack, without realizing that what they need to thrive is already available, whether in relationships, talents, or nearby opportunities. True wealth lies in appreciating what we already have and knowing how to leverage it to create the future we want. The importance of taking advantage of what is close throughout the book. Conwell has used the concept that wealth is nearby to illustrate how often the opportunities we seek are right around us, but we don't see them because we are too focused on what we don't see. This chapter serves as a call to appreciate what is within our reach, whether in our relationships, work, or social environment. Conwell emphasizes that many times, the key to success is taking advantage of the opportunities we have near us and working with what we have. Instead of always looking for something more, the author urges us to be more aware of what we already have and see it as a source of wealth. The lesson of diamonds and hidden mines, as in the story of Al Haft and the diamond mine hidden on his property. Conwell reaffirms that sometimes true wealth is beneath our feet. Many people spend their lives searching for something distant and desired, without realizing that the wealth they seek is already within their reach. The story of Golconda, the famous diamond mine, is a reminder that what we want most is closer than we think. The author uses this metaphor to illustrate how the hidden opportunities in our lives can be discovered if we change our perspective and begin to see the value in what we already have. Wealth, instead of always being in the future, can be in the present, waiting to be recognized and harnessed. Peace and personal success through gratitude. Conwell also highlights that one of the most effective ways to find wealth nearby is through gratitude. Gratitude for what we have allows our minds to open to new opportunities. When we are grateful for what we already have, we begin to see value in things we previously considered trivial or irrelevant. Gratitude transforms our perspective and changes the way we interact with the world. The author emphasizes that the most successful people are not necessarily those who have the most money, but those who will value and enjoy what they already have. When we appreciate and, as we cultivate gratitude for our current circumstances, abundance begins to flow to us in ways we would not have anticipated. See what is close as the key to a rich life. The chapter concludes with a reflection on how the richness of our lives comes not only from what we desire or what we seek outside of ourselves, but from seeing the value in what we already have. Conwell emphasizes that true prosperity lies in our ability to recognize and take advantage of nearby opportunities, whether in our relationships, work, or personal skills. The author emphasizes that the search for more can be a trap that makes us lose sight of what really matters. The rich life is not always one that is full of material things, but one that is full of appreciation for what we already have. When we change our mindset, we see how real wealth is not in external accumulation, but in the ability to enjoy and value what is already within our reach. Lessons from the chapter. 1. Wealth is nearby. Many times what we are looking for is already around us. We just need to change our perspective to recognize it. 2. Gratitude transforms our perception of life, allowing us to see the blessings we already have and opening the doors to new opportunities. 3. The value of what is close is found in our ability to appreciate what we have and work with it to achieve success. 4. True prosperity is not in what we obtain from outside, but in how we take advantage of what we already have to improve our lives. 5. Changing our mindset is crucial to recognizing the hidden opportunities and abundance in our daily lives. This chapter reinforces the central message that true wealth is not in what is far away, but in what we already have around us. The key to a rich and successful life lies in appreciating what is close, working with what we have, and changing our perspective to see the opportunities hidden in what we consider ordinary. Conwell invites us to value present blessings and be grateful for everything we already possess, since true prosperity is in the present and not in the future. We have reached the end of Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell, a book that, through its teachings, invites us to reflect on the true meaning of wealth and success in our lives. Conwell has shared stories, lessons, and fundamental principles that show us how prosperity is not always in what we seek far away from us, but in what we already have around us. This book has taught us that true wealth is not measured solely by material goods or the accumulation of money, but by the ability to recognize the opportunities that already exist within our reach, take advantage of what we have, and see the value in what is nearby. Prosperity comes when we learn to be grateful, to work with what we have, and to give service to our community, knowing that wealth grows when we contribute to the well-being of others. The invitation to reflection. As we close this learning journey, Conwell invites us to reflect on the essential lessons we have discovered in this book. It reminds us that the path to success and abundance begins with a change in mentality, seeing what is close and appreciating what we already have. The stories of Al Haft, the shoemaker, the young man who went to California in search of gold, and the maple tree show us that true prosperity is often hidden in plain sight. Only when we change our perspective can we discover the riches that are already within our reach. An invitation to subscribe. This has been a complete and exclusive summary of Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell, prepared by us to help you reflect on these key principles. If you like this content, we invite you to subscribe to our Audiomentors channel, where you can enjoy more summaries, audiobooks, and reflections on topics of personal development, growth, and prosperity. Stay connected to continue learning and growing with us. Thank you for joining us on this journey. True wealth is in what you already have around you and the ability to take advantage of nearby opportunities. Start recognizing them today and living a rich and abundant life.